It's time for Pawn of the Dead.
I know, isn't that gorgeous? It's just so...
No.
All right, let's start. Hello, and welcome to Pawn of the Dead, the internet horror film club that nobody asked for. I am your host, Nicholas, and as always, I am joined by the final girl, Natasha.
Hello. If you want more from us, check out our links in the description below. We also have a Patreon, and thanks to our members who have already joined. As a member, you get voting power for a movie choice, as well as the first look at our movie lineup each month. As always, don't forget to spread the love by rating and reviewing us on Spotify or wherever you listen. We love your support. On this week's episode, we are going over 2008's Martyrs.
Yes, so before we get into all of this, this is our first episode for Foreign Film February.
Welcome.
And Natasha played Russian roulette and picked Martyrs for this week.
Got myself right in the face.
Would you like to tell the beautiful listeners what Martyrs is about?
Yeah. It's a French language psychological horror film written and directed by Pascal Laugier. And it follows a young woman's quest to seek revenge against individuals who abducted and tortured her as a child, and her friend, also a victim of abuse.
Yeah.
And I gotta say, that is the most misleading description of a movie I have ever read.
What are you talking about? That's the first act.
That's the first act, which is such a small part of the movie, because you read that and then you see what happens in the first act and you go, okay, the movie's over. What else is there?
A twist on a twist on a twist.
A basement in a credenza.
Well, I would like to... Well, don't give away everything. I will say, though...
There's a credenza in a living room. Done. How about that?
There you go. I'm like... We come from different walks of life when it comes to films, right? So this was definitely, I knew that, I honestly almost half expected a text message from Natasha this week saying, I quit the podcast.
Very close. I almost feel like I should read the transcript of the text that I sent while watching the movie.
Yeah, you can do that after spoiler territory, because I think some of it gives away the ghost. So yeah. So this came out in 2008. French, it's like kind of paired up French and Canadian, but it is a French film. It got some funding and stuff through both channels. So this independent for the most part. There was like one, I think it was Canal is so the film was rejected by basically every big French studio, as well as a lot of actresses, except for Canal Plus, which according to the director was the only television channel in France that would still finance some unusual projects. The director also noted that the movie's premiere at Cannes led to several walkouts, and during subsequent screenings at the festival, one person fainted while another vomited. So with that understanding of financing of the film, what do you think its budget was? And I do have this made $2.
Got it.
Converted to
Great.
dollars.
So I don't have to do conversion in my head.
Yes.
Okay. It had a budget of, let's go, $19.5 million.
Okay. So you think it looks like a $19.5 million movie? This movie was made...
my frame of reference.
I know, but like this movie looks great.
Oh, yeah.
Like without a doubt. This movie was made for $2.9 million.
Dang.
Yeah. So like that's the thing that like both like the special effects and everything in this movie are fabulous. Whether you get on with where this movie goes, you cannot deny its effectiveness, right. I guess is the best way for me to
the
say.
Realness of it.
Yeah. Now, we'll say, this film, it had a really hard time then getting into theaters. Shocker, right?
Right.
The movie went through a notoriously controversial rating process, which in turn became a subject of a documentary called Martyrs versus Censorship.
Oh.
The French Commission of Classifications initially gave the movie an 18+ rating, normally reserved for porn or comparable to the USA's NC-17, which is considered to be a commercial death sentence. Director Pascal Laugier, I think that's how you pronounce it, called a way for them to censor me without asking me to cut anything. Under strong pressure from the French film industry, including a surprising number of people who disliked the film but still felt it was a matter of freedom of speech and expression, Minister of Culture Christine Abeille, I believe that's how you pronounce it, eventually requested the commission to that the rating be lowered to a 16+, which would be like our rated R.
Right.
So, like, that's the big thing is, yeah, this film goes harder than probably anything that we've covered, but I am here to say that it goes hard because of the narrative that it's trying to explain.
I mean, yeah, the narrative is a hard topic. You can't do it lightly.
Correct.
I'm still just saying, just as a narrative that doesn't need to be written.
And that's fine. That's fine. But we'll get into that a little bit in a second. But on its $2.9 million budget, literal pushbacks nonstop to get into places, stuff like all this stuff, right? How much do you think it made at the box office?
I would be shocked if it broke 2 million.
Okay, so you're saying 2 million is your
sub
limit?
2, yeah, sub 2. 1.9.
You're really 1.1. Ended up making 1.1. Yeah, because, and like, obviously not made for everybody, right?
Right, because if you read that description and you go in, you have a feeling that it's going to be like your somewhat traditional like revenge story.
Correct.
So I can imagine that first weekend was probably solid, and then it had a steep decline.
Well, and also this came out after, like, some people refer to this movie as torture porn. Okay. Yeah. And I can understand that if you don't, if all you look at it is like the spectacle of what is on the screen, I can understand that. But to, like, when you think torture porn, I tend to think of things such as like Hostel, where it's like, let's just make this as violent as possible and all this stuff. If that were to be the case, if this movie were trying to be as graphic as it wanted to be or whatever, it wouldn't pull away from shots that could have been far more graphic, far more. And I'll explain when we get into spoil. But like, that's a lot of stuff. You see a lot of fucking horrible stuff, but
you could see more.
You could see far worse in it. And I think that, like I was telling Steph, there is one specific scene. I've seen this film multiple times. There's still one specific scene that is extremely hard to get through, but that's the purpose of the scene. And we'll get, like, the whole idea of the title Martyrs is witness, right? The Greek translation of the word martyrs is witness. You yourself are being played as a martyr watching this film.
Oh, good.
So you are suffering with the characters through this film. Now, I understand. I know. I understand that is not fun, but not all films are fun. And this is the big thing. This is my big stance on this film. This is not a popcorn date night film. This is an art. No. This is an art piece, and art is not meant to be accepted by everyone, because then it's a product.
Right.
So that is my big thing with this film. This is literally why I was like, you know what? I think this will be an interesting film to talk about. Yes, it's going to cross some hard lines for Natasha, but it also has some certain things that I think you would give this movie a 10 out of 10, because it does have heads getting smashed in. It does. You know, there are some certain things in here that you absolutely love in films. Women crying.
I love women crying.
I mean, Midsummer, fucking.
Okay. Oh, that is a really good scene where she is just giving it her all.
Yeah. I mean, come on.
There's a difference. It's the physicality. of it in this one that
Yes. It's so real. It's so real. And I don't want to say relatable, but but you connect with these characters, I think. No? Okay. Well, before we get into all of that, would you like to do a little bit of our dream producing and get to do a proper remake of this film? Because this film has been remade in 2015 in America. The movie by producer Jason Blum's Blumhouse remade this film. Something that Blum regretted in hindsight, and Pascal, the director of the original, called selling off the remake rights the only regret in his career, as he hated the American version. Wow. And I can only imagine what this film would be like if you pulled all the punches. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. But
I hate you.
But it would, like, this film getting neutered removes like the impact and the purpose of the film, I guess, is my best way of putting it. This is not me saying I want to see torture. No, but in service of the script and the story, you gotta fucking go through it, I guess.
Yeah, because I'm thinking about, like, when we talked about in previous episodes about Speak No Evil, the American version. Speaking about, like, Speak No Evil, the American version really neutered the ending. So I can only imagine if the majority of the movie was the same for Speak No Evil. I wonder how you would even be able to, like, this is clearly not a shot for shot. I don't even know how you could do the same concept and get that concept to translate, because it's kind of a little hard to find in the original with as hard as this movie hits.
And it's one of those things, like, if you neutered it, right, if we took away the graphic violence of this film, right, but it was all like insinuated, well, then it's not gonna fucking matter as much.
You're not gonna be disgusted.
Well, it's not about the disgust. Oh,
and I don't mean disgusted like, ew, that's gross, but just that feeling of being dirty.
Yes, because I believe that was once you finish the film, I believe that's the text that you sent me. Yeah, was that I feel dirty. And
I feel dirty.
Yeah, I have had that experience. The first time that I've seen this film was the second most grueling film that I had seen that I liked. I've seen grosser films and all this stuff that just sucked, right? But there are two films. One of them we are not bringing to the podcast, no matter how much people ask, because it deals with sexual assault heavily. It's called Irreversible. You're more than welcome to watch it. That film makes me feel dirtier than this film. And I just don't want to talk about sexual assault for an hour and a half on a podcast, right? So at the end of the day, this still has to be enjoyable in some aspect. And I can't seem to find a way to make sexual assault fun. I mean, God, I can't figure it out.
All right, let's move on.
Before I get canceled.
You're digging a really deep hole.
Well, no, seriously though, like there's no laughing matter about trying to cover that film, and I'm not about to do it. So back to dream production. Natasha, you have millions of dollars.
I do.
And the Pot of the Dead Productions is going to be remaking Martyrs. So what are you ponying up? Who are you getting?
You know, I really struggled with this one. One, because I don't want to see a remake. I don't want to think more about this movie. And also, I didn't want to put actors that I like in situations such as what this movie does. But I did come up with something I think that would be feasible. So for director, I'm going with Tim Burton.
Okay.
I feel like it was a toss-up between Tim Burton and Guillermo del Toro. Like, let's make this beautifully dark.
Yes.
Instead of just dark.
Dark, yeah.
So, the psychological dreamy aspect of it, I think, could be cool with Tim Burton's style. Could also just do it straight claymation, and then I don't have to look at anybody getting hurt.
There you go. All right. But Tim Burton presents, okay. This is the sequel to Nightmare Before Christmas. Got it.
But if I had to cast people, I just did 3. I did Lucy, Anna, and Mademoiselle.
That's what I did as well.
Okay.
Because realistically, they're the 3 characters.
That's true. I was thinking Lucy could be like just watching the movie, I kept getting Mila Jovovich vibes.
Okay.
Circa
Resident Evil.
The Fifth Element, actually.
Oh, okay.
Resident Evil would also track,
I
yeah.
thought we were getting another Fast and the Furious.
It was so funny how that worked out last time. For Mademoiselle, I think Helena Bonham Carter would be cool.
Obviously, because since we've got Tim Burton directing.
I know, it just makes sense. I originally had Kathy Bates, so I'm just thinking of like a strong, older-ish woman.
So is Anna Johnny Depp then?
Oh man, it could work, man. It could work. But no, that's not what I was going with. I went with probably a lesser known actress, Kristen Ritter, who is, I know her. Okay, so from Breaking Bad, like Kristen Ritter circa Breaking Bad era. Okay. That style of Kristen Ritter.
Okay, so you're putting Kristen Ritter through it. You think
I don't want to.
You think that she's the one that could go through it is the idea. Okay. Yeah. I can see. Weird. I don't know if I can actually say it. Are they just voice acting the claymation characters? Is that what's going on here?
That was like, it was either one or the other. There could be a musical number. I think that could really break it up. And it's all in like the color tone of The Corpse Bride. So it's just like everyone's kind of blue.
Yeah. All right. A nice PG rating coming out Christmas time and everything. I can see that.
On the bubble of PG-13 because it's dark.
Yeah. Ooh. Spooky.
Yeah.
All right.
So there you go.
Well, I actually had my directors. I had two different directors depending on how I wanted to go, which is funny that you did that as well.
Yeah.
One of them was Guillermo del Toro.
All right.
Because I thought like I was thinking of just like the beauty and the grotesque, right?
Right.
But since you kind of went that way, I'm going to go my other way.
Oh boy.
Greta Gerwig, director of Barbie. So we're gonna get a hard female gaze at this, right? Okay. And it doesn't have to be as graphic as it is, you know. But I think that she could put a lot, like, because she did like Lady Bird and stuff like that. I think she did Little Women. So why not Martyrs, right? Let's like really put the female like experience. Right. Okay. I think that's something that she does in this. So we will start with Lucy. Lucy, our initial protagonist that we see off the bat from the film. I'm going to cast Florence Pugh in that role. Okay.
Okay.
So Florence Pugh is going to be our broken Lucy.
I wanted Florence Pugh, but I love her so much I couldn't stand to see her in this movie.
I'm not going to give anything away.
Continue.
She will be paired with Anna, who will be played by Sydney Sweeney. I think both of those women have a pedigree of really showing trauma from films like Immaculate and Midsummer. So I think that's really good. And then I really wanted a more tenured actress to play Mademoiselle that can just really give off some cold feelings and stuff, but also like it can be very matter of fact and stuff like that. And I'm casting Sandra Bullock as Mademoiselle because I've seen her in roles where she is very just cold, and I think that she would do that part really well. So my Greta Gerwig adaptation, going to make sure that's still at least an R. You know, we're gonna make it traumatic. We're gonna make it hard. I think A24 will want to be part of this. Maybe Neon or Focus. You know, we'll get somebody. We'll keep Jason Blum away from this as much as possible. But yeah, I think there's something there to take that, like, because that's a big thing in this film. If there weren't, outside of Anna and Lucy, if there weren't any other females in it, this would just be a misogynistic mess. You know, so like really leaning into like the female aspect of this film, which is a big deal in this film, I think could elevate it in a way. It could make it maybe a little more palatable for you. Maybe there'd just be a nice crying scene in it. I mean, this one does have a crying scene, so whatever. No,
it's not the same, man.
it's not the same.
Not the same. All right, cool.
So, a little bit though about director Pascal. I'm going to butcher his last name. How did you pronounce it?
Laugier.
Laugier. There we go.
Also, don't know if that's
Laugier.
accurate.
It's
if we
way
have any
better than
French-speaking listeners, please tell us we're wrong.
Oh yeah, we are wrong. Like straight up. I'm pronouncing the G with a G sound. Laugier. No, you're probably closer. Laugier. Yeah, that sounds way better. He confessed that he wrote this screenplay for the film in a state of clinical depression, bordering on suicidal thoughts, which is why the film is said to have a nihilistic and depressing subject matter. Mm-hmm. So rumor has it that he basically was like, I'm either going to finish this script or call it a day. And on the DVD copy of this film, you can watch it with an introduction from him. And he says there are days that he's very proud of this film, and there are days that he hates this film. He felt that it needed to be made because how he said was the world. This was a reflection of the world around him and where he felt that the world was going, and saying that this was a very Catholic process in which he wanted the audience to feel real pain and share it as part of an honest process of communion. He commented that the Western world is sick. Horror cinema allowed me to express this in a very direct way. Martyrs is almost a work of perspective fiction that shows a dying world, almost like a pre-apocalypse. It's a world where evil triumphed a long time ago, where consciousness has died out under the reign of money, and where people spend their time hurting one another. It's a metaphor, of course, but the film describes things that are not that far from what we're experiencing today.
God damn.
These are the things about this film that make me go like, yep, I can see that, especially like where we're at now. We got fucking people throwing up hand signs, all this shit. Like, we're dealing with an oligarchy now. Like, this is the kind of stuff that leads to these kind of things. So yeah, and I can appreciate that. I can respect that.
I don't need to watch that right now. And maybe it was just nope, you know what, it wasn't just the timing. This movie is hard no matter when. Correct. Or what week you watch it during the year.
Oh yeah,
I can respect that. But yeah, on screen, wow, that's not why I watch a lot of film. Like, I love downers, but this one, it just was too
nihilistic.
That one went
this is
too
nihilistic
far. That's it. Yeah.
And
that's the stuff I don't necessarily.
And it had been a while since I'd seen this, and this doesn't give anything away, but there is a point where I believe you called it a credenza, opens up. Mm-hmm. And once that happened, I remember sitting in the chair and going, all right, here we go.
Yeah.
I knew where we were going. Like, I remember beats of this movie. There's obviously a lot that goes, like, to actually just like keep it all in your brain is a lot, because it's very graphic, it's very traumatic, it's very sad, it's very dark, but it all makes sense. But yeah, once that credenza opens, it's like, fuck, all right, it's literally, you're at the top of the roller coaster.
Mm-hmm.
And then it does a little dip and then just keeps going, because you're just like nonstop for the whole film, like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. But at the same time, it's not like Hostel, where it's just like people pay money to torture people and we got to escape. There's no depth to that. There's a lot of depth and pathos to this. And that's what I think makes this a lot more. It makes it a lot harder to watch, personally.
Yeah, it makes it a lot harder to watch, but the things that are happening on screen are similar. Speaking, like, especially once that credenza opens. Can we just get into spoiler territory? Because this is going to be really hard. But the feeling, like, I couldn't get past what I was watching to really take in the details.
You were visually just shocked at what was happening. I got you.
There was a part, which is when the text started coming through. First off, Drew walked out.
Oh, was he watching this with you?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yeah.
I was going to tell you not to do that.
Would have been cool. Yeah,
No,
I did it. And then he left and I was stuck there.
Yeah, I
So
was going
that's
to.
when I
This is not a movie that you introduce to somebody that isn't already like aware of what they're getting into. This is something that's like, all right, we're going to go real fucking hard. Are you on board with this? All right, I don't want you to look at me and I'm not going to look at you while we're going through this together, and then we can talk about it later. Because yeah, there's probably nothing worse than like watching this and then looking over and the other person's just disgusted and just you're like, oh god, that's just reinstating the way that I'm feeling through somebody else. And yeah.
Yeah. We both read the synopsis of this is what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And I told him what you told me, like, it's going to be a heavy movie and it's going to be mean.
I don't think I lied.
You didn't, but you left a lot out.
Well, you also said you wanted to go in blind.
I did. God damn it.
You said you wanted to go in blind, and that's the way that this film should be. Because if I gave you this first act, second act, third act, because I think it twists at every act, I don't think that it's as interesting as a film, personally. Like if I gave you like this is what's going to happen, you'd be like, oh, okay, so nothing's going to like narratively keep you drawn in, because then I think, well, I already know where this is going to go. Now I'm just watching fireworks nonstop.
But there were parts of this movie where I was thinking, where the fuck is this movie going to go? Because right now I don't like this. And I want to be done with this because it's the same thing over and over. What is the point? Why am I still sitting here?
Because it's homework.
Exactly. Exactly. And then it just happened. And then it was like, God damn it. Here we go again. And again.
I thought this was a good palate cleanser post Ghost Ship.
I don't even remember Ghost Ship.
Good.
That movie, it was a palate cleanser.
But you'll always remember this.
This is true. Unfortunately.
Unfortunately.
For better or for worse.
A little bit before we go into spoiler territory, Rolling Stone says that this is the 79th greatest horror film of all time. This is like, you're just like, I don't believe you. There's no way. There is no way that anybody can like this. Think of this for comparisons. Granted, this was an independent film in France, but our top 10 horror films in the box office were El Orfanato was number 10.
Orphan?
I guess so. Yep. Maybe the original Orphan.
Yeah.
And that came out at the end of December of 2007. So it like made all of its money early in the year. The Haunting of Molly Hartley, which I've not heard of. The Ruins, Shudder, the remake. One Missed Call, the remake. Mirrors, The Eye, the remake. Quarantine, the remake. Prom Night, the remake.
Lord.
And Saw 5. So it was all J-horror remakes and 70s and 80s horror remakes. Out of all of those, the top 10, 4 of them are original.
Wow.
3 of them are original without being a sequel. So
Wow.
That's where we're at.
So people were probably watching them just because they may have seen the original or whatever. But
that's where we
there's
live
nothing
today.
Like, there's no ground for it.
Yeah, it's just like, here's the IP name. Remember that? Go watch it. Remember that?
Yeah.
Go watch it. You know. So top 10 films for the year. Horton Hears a Who. You know? 007 Quantum of Solace.
Okay.
This is the first year for Twilight.
Woo!
Madagascar Escape to Africa. Kung Fu Panda.
Man.
Wall-E. Hancock. Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skulls. Number 2 is the first Iron Man film, and number 1 is your boy Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight.
Nice. It's a year, like up until those, I guess the first one, that's a year for kids.
Yeah. Is an interesting time for cinema, as it were. So
Yeah.
you ready to get into spoiler territory so we can openly discuss this film and get at it?
Let's do it.
All right. If this is your first time listening to Pod of the Dead, you have picked a hell of an episode to join us. If you're not familiar with us, we give out homework at the end of every episode in which we watch the film and discuss it on the next episode. So if you have not seen Martyrs, I believe you can watch it on Tubi for free right now. DVD copies and stuff of this are expensive. So you're either going to rent it for a couple bucks here and there. You watch Tubi with commercials. The commercials might give you a little reprieve from what you're about to sit through. This film is not for the squeamish. And it is not it's not a group movie. Realistically, unless you're doing what we do.
Yeah.
Unless you got friends that like, hey, we're all part of the Pot of the Dead film group, like let's do this, and then get on it, fucking talk about it. Like, this is definitely a movie though that will have you talking, I think. Like it's going, unlike Ghost Ship where it's like, can I just go to sleep? So with that being said, let's crack open the credenza, take a step in, and talk about 2008's Martyrs.
If you'd like to be part of our horror film club, make sure to follow us at Instagram, Threads, and Facebook at Pot of the Dead. All of our episodes can be found at potofthedeadorelse.com or wherever you stream music and podcasts. If you have movie recommendations or questions for us, email us at potofthedead666@gmail.com. Don't forget to leave us a 5-star review. Or else.
All right. With that being said, Natasha, can you give me that 10 out of 10 review that I found online?
Okay. If you think a rating of 10 is a fanboy rating, you're wrong. Martyrs took the crown for disturbing terror horror. Even though it gave me serious problems to fall asleep for a couple of months back then, when I saw it for the first time 14 years ago, I still consider Martyrs one of the best horror terror movies that I have ever seen to this day. In my book, Martyrs is unmatched. The disturbing part is the entire movie.
True.
Firstly, the monsters in this movie are not to be understood as unreal. Not for the victims. The victims suffer from the deepest form of a trauma. This is what happens to someone who has been tortured like this. Hallucinations with all their senses. Terrifying. To all the people who struggle with the ending, which is the majority of people, there is a watertight explanation for this, quote, unexplained ending. Look at my lists. There is one with an explanation. Okay, that doesn't do anything. So there's a watertight explanation, this guy says.
I don't think there's a watertight explanation. I think it's left in
very ambiguous.
Ambiguous, but like it definitely leans on certain things if you really like process how a person would react to certain information, I guess is the best way for me to.
Yeah, and I guess it just depends on how you would react to that information. Correct. As to how you're going to interpret. And
I think that that's the purpose. Is it's supposed to be reflective of you. You've went through all of this. Now you got the answer. What do you do with the answer? So
I'm curious to hear your thoughts when we get there. Okay. So Nick, why don't you give us that 1 out of 10?
Okay, this is bullshit. I did not write this, nor would I
may have.
Maybe. Oh God, you didn't give this a 1 out of 10, did you?
Continue.
Oh my God. Pointless, plotless torture porn, in short. This is a waste of time. The most disappointing thing about this movie is the motivation behind the torture. While watching it, you are waiting to see what is behind all of this violence. What is the aim of all of this? Do they do this for fun? Are they psychopaths? Are they ill? Are they deranged? The answer is so weak and so poor that you realize those who made this film just wanted to film some torture scenes, but needed the excuse of a film, in quotations, to fund it and do it. Nothing makes you engage with the characters. The twist, in parentheses or in quotations, which becomes predictable after 5 minutes. What?
I don't know what they're talking about
this
there.
Is fucking this is like bullshit. Is revealed in the first third. So hold on. The twist, which becomes predictable after 5 minutes. No, you're a fucking liar. Leaving with a pointless movie. I do not understand what the other positive reviewers were seeing that I didn't. Finally, IMDb classes this as a horror drama thriller. There was no drama. There were no scares. I was not thrilled. Don't waste your time. Fuck that person personally. I'm a show up. I'm gonna kick your door in, and we're gonna have a kitchen scene.
Oh man, yeah.
So I do have a little bit more from Pascal with an interview with Electric Sheep that I'd like to kind of read out. Okay. I didn't know how much of it would give away some stuff, so I just kind of want to hold it to after spoilers. So here we are. All right, so Electric Sheep. There's also a lot of tenderness in this film between Lucy and Anna, who are very moving characters. How important is their relationship to the film? Pascal says, that was a crucial element for me. I didn't enjoy making this film very much. Everything from writing the script to editing was, for different reasons, very difficult. What gave me strength to tell this story, to spend 2 years of my life in such a dark world, was the love story between Anna and Lucy. It was what connected me viscerally to the film. It's a love that is not shared. Anna loves Lucy unconditionally, and this love will kill her. That's something very real that we all experience, to fall in love with the wrong person. The one who, without consciously wanting to, will destroy you just because they are what they are. So yeah, like this is the shit. Electric Sheep then later on asks, what was the reaction from the public in France and elsewhere? Were you surprised? Pascal says, I knew that I was sending out a blast of dark energy to the audience, that I had to be ready for any reaction. It's the rule of the game. I had some amazing experiences at festivals around the world. Some people insulted me and were angry with me. Others reacted very warmly. Martyrs forces people to take a strong stand, and that suits me fine. Horror, in my view, shouldn't be a unifying genre. It must divide, shock, make cracks in the certainties of the audience and their propensity to a certain conformism. Horror is inherently subversive. Otherwise, I don't see the point. There you go. So that's kind of the reason I brought this one to the table was, and I didn't even know that, right? Like I found that through research and I was like, perfect. That right there is like our mantra for this fucking podcast. It is subversive. Otherwise, what's the point of talking about horror films? And that's what makes horror films a really interesting thing to talk about, because what's scary to one person or shocking or interesting can be wildly different. If it's Iron Man, it's like, oh, it was pretty.
Yeah, there were a lot of explosions. His suit was cool.
Yeah, suit was super cool. Robert Downey Jr.'s got nice facial hair. All right, let's break this down a little bit. We're going to start from the beginning and work our way through it a bit, because there's a lot to talk about. Okay, so I'm gonna just kind of give like a little title, and then you're gonna lead it, because you're probably gonna have a lot more to say where I'm going to almost have to rebuttal against, I feel. So it opens up and we're seeing a young woman escaping a place in which she's tortured, and you see like a kind of a montage of her through an orphanage. So
yeah, and I thought that was the basis of the movie. Was exactly like I just keep going back to just that little synopsis and how angry I am at it. So yeah, with that it was like I was confused, of course, because I feel like the first act you're not really knowing what's happening other than okay, she broke free, and this girl, like, why are we in an orphanage? That makes sense, but why are there other seemingly like tortured souls in this orphanage? Also, that part didn't make a ton of sense. I'm not quite sure how far you want to go, but I did feel that at some point, like Anna's character so Lucy's the one that escaped and Anna is in the orphanage with her. I thought the family that the girl was going to was Anna's family.
Okay.
Is where my mind went. Okay. So first act, that little bit, there isn't a ton other than like, okay, we're getting into it.
And then, well, the whole first act, I would say, I'll tell you when I think the second act starts. So we continue going on. Now they're adults. I think it's 15 years later. Yeah. Lucy has found them, and I like the way she has found the people that tortured her, because we're led to believe that she doesn't, well, not led to believe, she can't remember what they looked like, because she was like confined in like a dark room, and all they did was like feed her and beat her. That's literally, and you get that later on. But when a news clipping is shown earlier, I think that that's really smart writing, where it's like, oh, she saw him and was like, fuck, there they are. So she was supposed to go do recon, and Anna was waiting for her, you know, being like her getaway driver or whatever. But Lucy decides, I'm blowing every motherfucker away in this house with a shotgun. Yeah.
And that's the part that I have a hard time with, is if this was pure revenge, why did she also kill the kids? You know, I guess, like, so there aren't any witnesses, but I have a feeling that she was running on pure revenge. So why do harm to a kid that was essentially could have like her? You know what I mean? I don't
think she's thinking clear. And also, she asks the son how old he is. So they had these kids while they were doing this to her. So that it like, so I think a lot of this to me is considering he says this comes from a very Catholic place and everything, the whole idea of like the sins of the father will be, you know, so it's like your parents are fucking horrible and you're going to suffer because of what they did to me, is a very, and they don't suffer though. Like, it's quick.
okay. They don't suffer, but they still die as he's like crying and not wanting to like get shot. Like, he's pleading for his life and the daughter's running away. It's things like that where but there's a hypocrisy to it.
Yeah, but like when you go through what Lucy went through, I'm gonna just say you can do whatever the fuck you want. When you find those people, nah, I'm good. You fucking kill all of them. Anybody shows up, you fucking blow them all the fuck away. It doesn't fucking matter. You like went through literally the worst shit that a person could go through and somehow survived. And now you're getting your goal. You're exacting your revenge. Whatever that even means, I don't even care. You got it. You do what you got to do, girl. Girl power on that one.
You do you.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot about the monster, and that part really threw me for a loop for the longest time.
Yeah, so there's
something... I feel like it was supposed to. Yeah, there's this like Gollum-esque like creature, which was just so confusing for 2/3 of the movie.
And but like then it makes sense. But yeah, there's this thing that's hunting her down, and it's hurting her, and it keeps hunting her down from childhood through literally until her death.
Yeah, it's what ends up killing her.
It's her guilt. It's like the embodiment of her guilt and her suffering and her trauma.
Dude.
Because it is the girl that she saw when she was escaping, which is so sad and horrifying when that happens. Yeah. She's escaping and she just hears another woman screaming. She looks in there and there's a woman like tied down to a chair and she's all fucked up and everything. And I'm not like... This movie is really heavy and stuff like that. I'm going to word things that are not like she's just fucked up, because I don't want to fucking get.
You don't know how else to describe it. Yeah,
because this movie is a lot,
and it makes you kind of take a look at yourself too. We were having this discussion at work the other day about like, what would you do if you're in, like, you're not responsible for anybody else other than yourself? How would you react?
Yeah,
and I mean, I don't think that I would turn around and help the nameless person.
A 0.001 chance that you were like the lady just accidentally broke her ankle when letting you free to wash you or whatever. I got scot-free. I have to make the best of this, because if not, they're just gonna fucking murder me. Like,
yeah, that will be me.
Yeah,
you know,
and it eventually was going to be her. Like. So, and
there are some bits of this movie that, like, even talking about it now, like, it still makes you feel dirty because you're looking at like the depths of your survival instincts.
Oh, 100%.
And they're not heroic.
No, it's the fight or flight comes in super
heavy.
hard.
Yeah.
This is so like in like that image of the woman looking over her shoulder, like like her mouth is sewn shut and like it's all sorts of horrible stuff. That image is forever like in my brain. Like there's a lot of images in this film that are like forever stamped in my brain. Because
that is one of the worst.
Yeah, that one's
honestly.
hard. And you don't see that until a little later because we are kind of talking out of order, but it's like all in that same, like, because we get some flashbacks and stuff.
Yeah, that's right. Because we didn't know, because so for still act one, sorry, I'm going to try to keep this as linear as possible. So the monster, that part, like when they're in the orphanage, the monster was just like, what the, now what's happening? Like,
I
so
forgot
it was a
about
lot of that.
Yeah, because you're confused. Okay, what's this thing? And then later on, so we kill the family, and now Anna's coming to help her, and it's like, fuck, you're supposed to just check them out, and like there's like this, all right, we got to just fucking get the bodies in here and dispose, clean up, you know, whatever.
She's out digging a giant grave in the rain.
No, she doesn't have to dig it because the mom that they killed was working on the water system, so it's already dug out.
Okay, I missed that part.
Yep, so they're just gonna throw them out in there, you know, and Lucy is having a fucking time because she is like, there's no nice way to put it. This woman is absolutely insane due to the trauma that she went through as a young person, like maybe 13 years old or something like that, like very young. Yeah. There's no nice way of putting it. Like I'm not in the medical field. I can't, like, you know, I don't know what to say.
Her brain is broken. Her psyche is so fragmented.
And they explain that later on, that like through this trauma, you will see and hear all of these different things, right? So she sees that woman that's from there chasing her down, trying to hurt her and kill her. And I think it's really smartly done because, you know, you don't really pick up on the fact that it's only happening when Lucy is by herself initially, right? So Lucy's by herself, like there's not another witness to see this stuff happening.
Right. Anna's sleeping.
So you're always thinking it's in her head. She gets chased around the house and she's like locked in the closet and everything, as this thing's fucking beating on the door trying to get to her. And so we got all this going on. She's all cut up on the back and everything, which is really fucking hard to watch. Like, and then Anna's like getting the bodies out and the mom wakes up, like, from like basically like like she got shot in the chest and it's been a handful of hours. That stuff can kind of happen, you know, like they're in shock or something, you know. So Anna, not being Lucy, is like, fuck, I don't want to kill anybody. Like this, she did not sign on for this. So she's trying to get the mother here, La Marie, trying to get her out of the house. That does not go so well.
No, isn't that when heads get smashed?
That's when your favorite time happens.
Yeah. And it was such a dull thud for so many hits.
Yeah. Lucy loses her shit, smashes some skulls, loses her shit on Anna.
Oh, I forgot about that part. Yeah. There's so many things in this movie. I think it was like, as all of that's happening, I'm only remembering certain parts that because I was questioning certain parts, but then like the things that seem more natural have just gone away.
Yeah.
Like, of course she's going to be mad at her.
Yeah.
Why would
you save her? Like, she did this to me. You don't believe me. Do you, like, and this is the thing. Do you smell that? Do you smell that? I smelled that every day she beat me. Like,
that's right,
talking about her perfume and stuff. And it's like, that's so fucking, like, that's such good writing. It's so fucking horrifying. Like, those kind of sense memories. It's like, that's so like, I feel so bad for Lucy. Like, and we're still like in act one, basically.
Yeah.
So, from this point, Lucy, I'm really trying to remember everything because it's a lot.
Then people come in, right?
Well, that comes along like the next morning, basically, after Lucy kills herself. Right?
Or what you think is the monster kills her. And then that was another mind fuck of the monster's after her, essentially. The monster's slicing her wrists. The monster's throwing her head up into the wall. And then you see it almost from Anna's perspective.
Correct.
And there's nobody there.
It's Lucy doing it all.
That was trippy to me. And that's when things started to kind of just get, one, more insightful, but also more confusing, because I didn't pick up. I don't think we know at that point that the woman crawling around is
correct.
The woman from the beginning. But my mind went to, this is the actual person somehow has stalked her, tracked her down, and is doing this. I didn't think that it was in her mind. I thought it was like a concrete person. Then when she disappeared, that's when I was like, okay, well, here we go. Now it's all in her mind. Now what's going to happen? Now
it's trauma. And that's where I think the first act stops.
Agreed.
Because you think, it's like this trauma film, this revenge film. And then it's like, well, there's like this ghost or monster. And then it's like, no, it's her trauma. She goes the long way from wrist to elbow, ends up getting outside, cuts her throat, dies. And Anna drags her in and is like cleaning her and everything. And this is where it's super, super sad. And this is where I think Act 2 starts. So Act 2 is, I think, the shorter of the 3 acts. It's in service to get us to Act 3. So she's cleaning up and everything. And I'll just call them the cult, right? The cult shows up and... no, hold on. The cult does not show up yet.
We have like agents coming.
Well, no, I'm talking even before that.
Oh.
Anna's dead. Yeah. Or not Anna's dead. Lucy's dead. And she's like looking around and she sees that a window is broken out from a hammer that fell through. And she opens the credenza. She walks in and she finds like the lab kind of thing underneath the house. And this is where, like, instantly I'm like, oh fuck, here we go. This is where the movie is now about Anna, because you think that Lucy is your main protagonist through this film, right? And she's dead after Act 1, so it kind of does that like Psycho thing where it's like, and our lead actress is killed in the shower instantly, and okay, now who are we following? So you're following Anna. She goes through. You see all of these like pictures of mutilated and dead bodies on the wall. She ends up
seemingly dead bodies.
Yeah, you go down and then now you're in the secret room. Oh wait, the secret room has a hatch that goes down, and it is just horrifying. And this is the thing, is nothing bad is happening at this point, but there's so much tension and dread of like, what the fuck is this?
There's so much tied to going deeper and deeper, and the further down you go, the worse it is. Just inherently, for some weird reason, you go into a basement, it's bad. You go into the basement of the basement, it's even worse. Why do we have that vibe? I don't know, but I got it, and it worked.
Like the idea of like, here's the secret door. Well, okay, why is there a secret door? So we're hiding this thing. Now we have a latch that's locked. Why is the latch in the hidden room locked? Like that kind of shit. She goes down, checks it all out, and that's where, oh my god, we find our masked lady.
Dude. And knowing that the writer of this movie was in such a dark place actually helps me understand the imagery in this movie, because I could not believe that was written for somebody to do.
That is so fucking like you see it and you're like, what? It's like a picture of hell, because the only thing she's wearing is a metal mask that is stapled into the top of her head in like a metal like codpiece,
like chastity
belt kind of thing, and that's it. And she's chained to the wall. It's a long chain that allows her to get to a mattress. and that's it. And there's a chair with a hole in it and a bucket under it. That's the only thing in this area. And Anna gets her out, and it's the music tied to it is so somber. It's not like scary, it's like heartfelt in a weird way, because you feel so bad for this woman that is just brutalized. And I got a text recently from our Patreon, one of our Patreon people, Brian, who had watched this recently and was like, I just got to the demasking scene. And it is,
that's all you need to say.
That's all you need to say. But I'm gonna say it. Popping some staples out of the head, pulling this metal mask that you have no idea how long this had been on someone.
Even before that, her just taking her up to the tub. She's like a frail, broken baby deer, like trying to walk. She's so emaciated. Just her gait is all.
Well, she looks like she's wrapped in barbed wire, like around her waist.
I forgot about that.
Like, it's so hard. It's again. Okay, I am wearing a Martyrs shirt right now. Okay, I am not a fan of this movie for what they are doing to these people in the movie. It's the narrative and everything. Okay, I just want to put that out there right now.
I know you do.
So,
anyway, so then you realize, I didn't know until that point that it was stapled into her head. I knew it was on, and you could see the bolts on the sides. So I was like, okay, are we going to try to get the bolts off? How are we getting this contraption off? As she's just instantly submerged in a pool or in a tub, and it just gets so gross, like the water with all the dirt and the feces that's all over her. And then, yes, it gets even worse, where she's taking a flathead screwdriver and prying gigantic staples out of this poor woman's face or skull.
Yeah. And then she's basically kind of trying to take care of her.
Rips it off.
Yeah. Now, Natasha, remember, this is an audio platform.
I know.
So you are like just like in your hands, head firmly in hands, just traumatized.
When she, like, the panic almost that our masked woman is going through as the staples are getting pulled off, to the point of where she just feels the need to rip this metal thing off of her face, and you see skin coming off with it. But she has almost this like relief that this thing is off of her. That's why my head is firmly placed in my hands. Sorry, I keep hitting the mic.
Absolutely. And it's one of those things, how long has this been on there? Like, it's just because it's not just shielding her eyes. If you see it, it cuts under and like literally is formed to her nose. So there's not there's zero light coming into this thing. So turning off senses, it's just scary, very scary. Yeah. So I'm going to try and make her addition to this story shorter, because it's just horrifying. She then, Anna falls asleep, hears some screaming. Masked lady is proceeding to try and cut her arm off, which seems very abrupt, and you're like, what the fuck is going on? But it explains it later on. She's losing her fucking mind running, and like comes out into the main area. The door comes open and someone shoots her through the fucking head. And you're like, what the fuck is going on? Enter Act 3.
Men in Black.
Yeah, enter Men in Black. Technically, Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones show up.
If only I could have my memory erased, that would have been glorious.
So that's all of the second act, I believe, is like finding the underground like place, finding the woman, dealing with all of that, her getting murdered, and then just how coldly her and the people that live in this house are dealt with, just tossed into the fucking thing. All right, onward. Anna is then captured, chained to something while they wait for Mademoiselle to show up. And Mademoiselle comes and has a little talk with her and explains to her what they do here, right?
I was happy, I guess, about that, where it's pretty much an exposition dump, but god damn, we needed it.
100%.
It didn't necessarily help moving forward, though, because then I was like, okay, this is what we're doing.
It doesn't help with what you're getting ready to see or anything.
Yeah.
But it gives you, like, your footing of, okay, so everything that has happened up until now is in service to take these young women, because that's where they've had their most success. Young women are more susceptible to seeing the other side before death. And it is our job, because we don't give a fuck about anybody other than ourselves, basically, right? Mm-hmm. It is our job to make martyrs out of these people. We are going to, when you put someone in a dark room, they will suffer. And then you feed that suffering. And like the whole idea of that, and just to the point where, you know, when everything is broken down and, you know, something inside you will just keep you going. And through that suffering, you will basically see the other side. And we recount that because we want to know what happens after death.
And where I have a huge problem with that is, I guess, narratively, whatever. Mm-hmm. Why do they need more accounts? Why?
Well, they've never gotten a full account. That's like, they've gotten people that have seen stuff, but they've never gotten like full stuff. So they're like seeing that they're seeing something, but they haven't gotten, because they've only done this, I think they said, for 17 years, which I mean, that's a long time. But like realistically, like initially, like when you hear all that kind of stuff, you're like, oh, have they been doing this for hundreds of years? The idea of martyrdom and stuff like that. Yeah. And it's like, no, this is like a kind of a newer thing. And it's a lot of older people. So I believe the whole thing is like, they're trying, like they've been horrible people through life because like these people obviously just have money, you know, like are the super, super rich. And what they need to know is, well, what's the point of life? Is there something like, am I going to be like, when I die, is it going to be nothing? Like, was it pointless? Or am I going to be like rewarded or what? Like blah, blah, blah. Right. Like they just need to know. And I'm not a religious person or a spiritual person or anything like that. But this is like the antithesis of faith. Right? Because faith is believing even when there is nothing to believe in, but you still have faith and you believe. This is the opposite of it. I need to know, you know? So that's kind of the whole thing of it. It's almost like taking like atheism and making it a villain in a weird way. No shots taken at me, I don't care, but like it's kind of how it feels, where it's like, is there a God, is there an afterlife? Well, we've got the resources, so we're gonna fucking find out. And that's it.
But it's slightly like, I wouldn't compare it to atheism, because with that, like, you're already understanding of there is no theology, why search for it? This is that weird middle ground between like, I want to have faith, but like you said, faith is believing in something that you cannot see and then being okay with that, where atheism is exactly that, the opposite of theology. There is no theology, so why search for it?
Yeah, no, I'm just saying.
So that's like, where I struggle with this, was that exact what you're talking about of, we have to find out what's happening after death. So you have this weird ground of, well, if you are a faithful person and you believe in heaven and hell, clearly your actions are going to take you to a different spot than what the person that's being traumatized is going to see.
I don't think it has anything to do with any of that stuff. It's just, we have the means. I want this answer. I want this question answered. Is there an afterlife? Is there anything?
Taking religion, taking theology, any of that out of the picture, and it's purely what happens after death. We're going to figure it out. Got it.
Yeah, I think that's where it comes from. It's not I'm just saying, like when I was saying like taking atheism and making it the villain, it's not, I'm not saying that that's the purpose of the director or anything like that. It's just that idea of like, it's the removal of faith, because the faith aspect would be like, whether there is or isn't, I have faith that there is. And this is like just the questioning of, I need to know. And like, it just really leans into that, like, you know, in a pre-apocalyptic future where money solves everything. This is like, okay, so like, because like, look at it this way. Well, if when I die I'm rewarded anyway, why would I fucking try? Like, why try to do nice things? Why would I do this if there's nothing after I die? Why do this? Why do? So it's one of those things of like, I need to know what the actual purpose of me existing is, if there is one, and then I can go from there and decide how I'm going to live my life. It's a weird thing, but like,
yeah. But why do you have to cash in after you're dead? That's the part that, like, just big picture, what I've never understood.
Well, no, but that's us as people, because there are other people that are only good people in service of a reward, right? Yeah. Like, it's the whole idea of if people believe in God in hopes of a gift, refuse them that, right? Like, the whole purpose of believing in a deity is not to be rewarded. That's not the purpose, because if that's the purpose, if that's what you're doing, then that's a false reason, right? So, enough of Nicholas's theology corner.
It's hard not to like make some parallels, though.
Oh no, 100%. That's the whole purpose of this film.
All right,
now let's get into Act 3, Natasha's favorite act. So they take Anna and they take her downstairs and they chain her up to the wall. And this is the hardest part of the movie.
Yeah.
Because you go through watching, you have no idea how long she's down here. It's day by day by day. And she gets fed by a woman, a blended meal of green stuff, force fed. And if she spits it out, chokes on it, anything, smack. Right? Just force fed to make sure she's alive. And then we'll say that that's morning. And then for afternoon, a big guy comes down. And the first time it happens is the most, I don't want to say the most grueling, but it is the hardest to comprehend, because he undoes her bindings, stands there, and she tries to escape. And every time she does, he beats her. He stands her back up if she's unconscious, wakes her back up, beats her. Okay. In a lesser film, this is just misogyny and beating women. This makes sense in service of the plot. It is not easy to watch, nor is it meant to be. See, that's what I'm talking about. If this movie was neutered, this is not effective. This has to be effective. Otherwise, everything else is for naught. So day by day, you just watched this happen, and you watch her break down and become hopeless and essentially give up, to the point where her eyes are like swollen shut, beaten. She's just sitting there, and they come down and they're like, we got to call Matt. I think we're ready for the next and final step.
Because she's completely given up any hope, any drive. And that's when I text you after the second beating, not knowing there were easily 3 more times of Jesus Christ, Nick, I cannot continue to watch this.
No, and it's hard. And by like once, that's why I was saying when that door opens, I'm like, I know that I'm going to have to sit through that beating sequence. And that is so fucking hard. Now, I will say, okay, and I don't ever expect you to watch this again. Maybe you'll still give it a 10. Who knows? But it does get easier because, well, no, this is why. Because when it's the first time you watch it, you don't know if it's ever going to stop. And that, I think, is purposeful. Neither does she.
I feel differently. That first time was hard. Yes. It got subsequently harder because it kept stopping and happening again.
I know.
And stopping and happening again.
That's
so
what I'm saying.
When you say it got easier to watch, I disagree.
On subsequent viewings of the film, you know that it is going to end after so long. The first time you watch this, you don't, and you're like, I don't know how much more of this I can take. And that's what she is thinking as well.
Right. I thought you meant the first beating.
No, because it gets far worse. The last beating's the worst one, where she's laying on the bed and you don't see it. You just see the guy beating on her. That's the worst one. And you don't actually see it. It's just the hopelessness of it. And it fucking is devastating, you know? So then we get to the final thing. And I got a direct text message from Natasha post this scene. Yep. They put her on basically this like gyroscopic table. And this is where I say that if this was meant to be a torture porn movie, they would have went harder in this.
Right.
Would you like to explain what happens, Natasha?
So you don't see anything. You see her face. It's a close-up shot on her face as she's like face down almost. And you see a guy with what I'm assuming is a scalpel to her back. And that's it.
They're scissors.
They're scissors?
They're medical scissors.
Cut to her being completely skinned alive. What the fuck?
Except for her face.
Except for her face. So my text to Nick as this is happening is no. Just no. She's fucking skinned.
Yes.
What is happening? Because that's exactly what was going through. Was just that. Because before that, as she's getting beaten, it's like emoji faces of like just stone faced, and no one's asking what's happening, what's going on, and then this happens. Because at this point, I'm watching it by myself.
Yeah. When did he leave? What was the point?
The second beating, and he was like, "I feel dirty. I don't want to do this."
Okay. And this is not me going like, what a pussy, he left after, but it's like, oh wow, he really actually made it almost all the way through the film. And he got to the point where I honestly think that most people, like, that's where the leaving would probably happen. That's where,
right.
And it's probably when she's shown completely flayed that someone probably threw up, because it is gross.
Right.
And like they kind of chain her up there.
Yeah, because she's still alive. You can still see life in her face. And I don't understand. Like, and it wasn't even like a scientific thing of like, how is this happening? I was in pure emotion and pure disgust at this point of this is how this movie's going. We're getting harder where I didn't think it could get harder.
Correct.
Skinned alive.
And then we zoom into her eye and we're seeing possibly what she's seeing. Or it's just like this release of, because like they say when like you're getting ready to die, your brain releases a lot of DMT, which then causes the visions of people like being like, oh, it was a beautiful place, there's all this white light and all this stuff. And it's like science shows that actually your brain just dumps DMT into your system to comfort you and all this stuff to make it a lot more pleasurable. DMT is a compound that your brain releases in dreams. So that might be what we're seeing here. Maybe she is seeing something beyond the veil. We don't know. And that could be also very upsetting for some people, because at this point, Mademoiselle, I'm never going to say that right.
Mademoiselle comes down and wants to hear what she has to say.
And they talk for a couple hours. Or not they talk. She recounts what she's seeing.
Right.
Tells her everything. Madam goes upstairs and begins to remove her eyelashes, remove her makeup, her turban and everything, and kind of sit there. And the guy, her like right hand man or whatever, comes and is, he's already told everybody, hey, Madam's talked to Anna. Anna has done an amazing thing. She has transcended and all this stuff. And like, literally, it's weird. They adore her for what she has went through, that they put her through,
right,
to give them this information. And she told the madam, and now madam is going to come down and tell us what Anna has told her. And Madam's sitting in her room, and she tells the guy outside the doors, like, can you imagine what is beyond, afterlife? And he's like, no. And she says, keep doubting, and then shoots herself. And that is the end of the film, basically. I think you see Anna a little bit more.
Yep.
So, a couple things about that ending. A lot of people have a lot of different theories about what they think it could have been. And I think that's the purpose, is you take from that ending what you want. And like, how do you think, like, not just what do you think, but like the character, Mademoiselle, what do you think would cause her to do this thing? What kind of information do you think she was told? So what do you think Anna tells her that causes her to kill herself?
I go back and forth because the keep doubting quote, there's so much in those two words that can go in so many different ways. I am leaning toward that she didn't tell her what she wanted to hear, that it wasn't a good message.
Yeah.
And I feel that Mademoiselle just made it quick and ended it just because there's no point in continuing on. There's no point in continuing on the search, and there's no point continuing on living. So she killed herself. But then it kind of goes back to, if that is what she did, then why didn't she recount that to anybody else? So there are still questions.
Well, there's that selfishness of it too. And this is information that we are not meant to have.
Yeah.
Right. So maybe her having this information alone damns her. Like 2 hours of talking, right? We don't know. Like, it looks like Anna's like kind of like not just like a word at a time, but like it's like relaying some information. It could be where it's one of those things where, I saw some people say that the only people that get nirvana, like get to transcend, are the ones that go through what I am going through. The rest just go to the abyss. And Mademoiselle is just like, well, fuck, if that's it, then what's the fucking point? Fuck it. Or there could be the aspect of that she tells her there's nothing, and then the guilt of, so we tortured all of these women for nothing, and then that guilt lays on her and is like, fuck. And the keep doubting thing is basically giving them purpose still. You don't want to know the answer, because then you're going to have to look yourself in the mirror for what you have done. Keep doubting, which basically means you still have purpose in life, right? I don't have to doubt anymore. And I know now that there's no purpose, and I can't live with that. Exit screen right, you know? So there's a lot of stuff, like those are the ones that I tend to kind of lean on, is like, she got an answer that she either A, can't meet the requirement, because I don't believe that she would have been told anything about like a heaven and a hell, because if it was hell, why would she just like speed way directly to it? So I like to think that it's something of, there is something, but you can't get there without suffering. Or maybe it is just like there's something to that, is how I feel it is. It's unattainable to her one way or another. You're not gonna get what I get. And I not like to think, but I am inclined to think that whatever Mademoiselle gets is basically nothing. So then she's just left with that guilt. And like, and that's the thing, is like, well, why would you kill yourself? It's like, you put yourself in, like, you can't even like consciously, as a rational person, put yourself in her shoes and go, what do I do now? Like, it looks like she's just like, fuck this, I'm done. Like, all of this for this, fuck it. Like, that's, and when you're talking about the writer-director writing this in a depressive state and all this stuff, it definitely comes off that way, where it's just like, what's the fucking point? And you know, that's Martyrs.
Yeah, I don't see her having any guilt tied to it.
You don't think so?
No, I don't think there's a guilty aspect to this at all. I think it's I didn't like what I heard, or like there's something around that. Just everything that you said, just take the guilt out of it. Okay. It's just, what's the point? I don't need to be here anymore.
Yep, fuck it.
Done. Yeah. Not like riddled with guilt, because the heinous things that were done over and over and over and over again, and if they've gotten fragments, then that shows like I just don't see a guilty aspect.
But her hands were never dirty of that. It's what I'm saying, the guilt aspect. I don't know. Maybe I'm using the wrong word, but just like the guilt of, not the guilt of what you did, but the guilt of like, I wasted all my time on this. I wasted my life on this.
Regret.
This is regret. Maybe that's better, you know? So yeah, well, you made it through movie one for February. I'm very proud of you for making it through this. I would like to.
Thanks, man.
Did you ever think in a million years you would watch a film like this?
No.
No. Okay. Well, you can mark that off your 2025 bingo card.
Right. Had I not needed to discuss it, because I talked to Drew about this after the fact, I wanted to shut it off. But if I shut it off, I would have an even longer relationship with the movie, because then I would have to still research and still watch parts and still know what happened. Yeah, I would just be kicking the can down the road.
Yeah,
exactly.
Like I literally told you, because you were like, I'm either going to watch it tonight or tomorrow. I was like, it's best to just get it over with. And I meant that, like, because
that's Nick's ringing endorsement for this movie.
It is, but
get it over with.
It's one of those things, because this movie is the longest Band-Aid pull.
Yeah.
It's just, you got to fucking get through this, you know?
But you never get that relief.
You don't.
It's still hanging on there.
Yep. It's.
God damn it.
God damn it. So you want to get into reviews?
Yeah.
Okay. I think you are going to give this movie a respectable 3.5.
You're very close. On face, it was going to be like a 2 or so. It was just like, I honestly don't know how to rate this movie. Upon talking about it and knowing more about the writer, I'm giving it a 4.
Okay.
And I would, you are right, a respectable 4. This is very polarizing, and I respect what this movie evokes. It's not for me.
No, and that's
and I don't necessarily.
It shouldn't be.
Right.
This isn't for everybody.
Right. Enjoy is the wrong word. I appreciate heavy films, and this one is just too far gone. Because at least, and if we want to take Midsummer, you can go back and listen to my ringing endorsement of that. That's a very heavy movie and a very traumatic movie, but there's still a payoff that I can resonate with.
True.
This movie doesn't give that to me. And there are some movies that have a nihilistic ending that I can appreciate. This one, I don't.
This is too much. This is beyond the mist.
Right. Yes. Beautiful way to put it. This is beyond the mist. It gave me that feeling that I look for sometimes in movies, but once again, it just hit too hard. It was too much. It was too much of not knowing. It was too much of, I didn't see the point in it until the very end, and then there still wasn't a payoff. Yeah.
Like, would you say, more so than anything, more so than the graphic violence of the film and stuff, was it just the sense of hopelessness through the film that is just like, how much more like that?
Yeah. The hopelessness, the little dialogue, the seclusion, all of those things, just the imagery and the way that he conveyed hopelessness and the way that he conveyed isolation.
Yeah.
Wow. I can do hopelessness if it's group. The idea of hopeless isolation and the only interaction you have is with your torturer with limited sensory input, and that only sensory input being brutality.
Yeah.
Wow. And then, to not get any sort of logical, for my mind, logical payoff of why.
Yeah, it's fair. That is a fair 4. I was really worried you're going to give it a 1 or 2. Like, it's one of those things, like, I 100% can understand not liking the graphic aspect of this film. There's so much about this film. I can 100% go, I get it. I understand. The one thing, though, that I do have a hard time with is like the 1 out of 10 review where he was just like 5 minutes and it was blah, 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 blah. It's like narratively, like you would love the script of this.
Yeah.
Right? Like a book of this.
Yeah.
But to actually have to sit in it and feel it and watch it is just too much for you. And that's fine. And it's too much for a lot of people, you know?
Yeah. And if I wasn't a quote seasoned movie watcher, if you will, had I watched this a couple years ago, I would have given it a 1. I wouldn't have finished it. It would have been garbage.
Episode 1, Martyrs.
Right. Right.
Well, because I teased this movie for a while because I was like, it's a lot, but like, and like, I think it's very warranted with what you said, a seasoned movie watcher, because it is like, you can't just dive into something like this. You have to have somewhat of an appreciation of what they're attempting to evoke and all this stuff. And if the only horror films you've ever seen is Scream and the like, and then you get into this, you're just going to be like, this is just violence.
Yeah, and knowing that the director and the writer didn't enjoy making this movie but felt the need to make it, I think that says a lot. Because there are movies, and it's usually documentary style, that I will watch a very heavy documentary, not because I'm enjoying it, but because the story needs to be told. Mm-hmm. And this is similar to that. It's just in a story based instead of real life. And that doesn't translate to me because it is something somebody has written as opposed to something that's actually happened.
Correct. Yep.
Oof.
That's fair.
So
you don't have to watch it again. You don't have to talk about it anymore.
I don't know.
You get to purge it from your brain.
I quickly shut it off, texted you, turned on a Nate Bargatze stand-up, and fell asleep on the couch.
There you go.
So I ended my Friday or Thursday night.
All right. What do you think I'm giving it?
You're giving it a 9.5.
You're close. I'm giving this movie a 10.
Really? Okay.
This movie is a 10. There is a specific reason for this. This movie is so beyond effective in its narrative, in its brutality, in its pathos. I compare this movie and its effectiveness to films like Requiem for a Dream.
Yeah.
And this movie, from the first time that I saw it, which would have been like in 2009 or so, I do not watch this movie very often because it is so hard to get through. But even knowing that it is that hard to get through and still going, I want to see it again, not because, I love that scene or I love that scene, but to appreciate the vision that is this narrative. There is no other film that I can think of that pushes it this far visually, but still is narratively captivating. That is why I give Martyrs a 10. I believe people will just there is brutality in this film that will scar your psyche forever. But not everything needs to be, not all films are for everybody. And this film is, and I'm not trying to say this film is this film's made for me. But this film is made for me in my snobby art appreciating brain, right? I just I watch this, I go, how do you come up with this? How do you write this? How do you, all of those questions, not because I want to recreate it as much as we joke about it at the beginning and stuff, but it's so beyond that You got people on board. Like, the narrative of this movie is fascinating. The literally not being shy to make your viewer suffer with them, I think, is so hard to do, and it's done so well that as a film, I think this is a 10 out of 10. I have a lot of 10 out of 10s. I'm very easy to throw those out there and stuff, but it's because there's no other Martyrs. There will never be another Martyrs. This film is a classic in my book. It is not for grandma. It is not for the Halloween night, all of this stuff. But it is for some people, and I guess I'm that desensitized. I'm not desensitized. I was disgusted throughout this whole film and everything, but like it's amazing. So that's what I gotta say.
Dare you say, like, you see the purpose of this movie,
100%.
which is why it's so important to you.
Correct. And I wouldn't say that it's important to me, like it's some sort of life-changing thing.
Well, no, that's not what I mean.
But it is important to me in the sense where it's like you can be so aggressive yet still have this like heartfelt, like you feel for these characters so much and you feel so bad for them. I don't know. There's no way that I can explain why I would give this movie a 10 other than I can't even compare another film that goes to these lengths to tell its story. So IMDb gives this a 7 out of 10. So we've got your respectable 4, which I think is a fair one because I don't ever see you rewatching this, and I think 5 is what we say is like I'd rewatch it. Yeah, I didn't see that, so I did not expect you to get to a 5. Unless you're like, it was fucking amazing, which I would have been like, where's my sister? This is not Natasha. I mean, it does have head smashing, but who knows?
There needs to be more.
Yeah, a 4, a 7, and a 10. I think we're looking somewhere around like a 70.
It's a 70 on the nose.
Yes, just shy of Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
This is going to be the one time that I say this. Usually 50 to 75, like in that area, I'm like, oh, you're going to like it. Only if you are interested in being pushed.
Yeah.
That's it. Like, you have to be like, this is not a, like you kind of said, this is not a ringing endorsement. You know, I'm over here going like, it's a 10. Don't watch this film if you're depressed, if you have a history of abuse and trauma, suicidal ideation, all of these things, right? Also, don't watch this with, like, if you think that you're ready for this film, do not watch this movie with someone as like a, hey, I'm going to check this movie out. You want to watch it with me? No. You're going to lose a friend.
Yeah, there needs to be like a questionnaire.
100 questions.
At a time.
Yeah. Because this movie, for lack of a better term, this movie goes hard in the paint, and the paint starts from basically scene 1. Because when you're seeing her run down that alleyway or whatever, you're like, oh, good Lord. And that's about as nice as this film gets.
Yeah. And I think that's to be said. Like, I think what you're saying about it's a 10, but
yes,
is a very interesting quality of this movie.
Yes, it is a 10 to me. Mm-hmm. And that's like what we come here to do. It is a 4 to you. IMDb aggregates this as a 7, and that's after 112,000 reviews.
Wow.
But I think it has a lot to say with the fact of if it didn't have the emotional, like if it was just violence for violence, I guarantee if I look up Hostel, it's maybe like in the 5. You know, because it's just brutality. It's kind of like Terrifier. The narrative doesn't matter. It's just the special effects, and that's it. You could like tone this down as long as the narrative's still good. The narrative is always going to be that narrative. So, okay. You did it, Tasha.
I did it.
You did it. Everybody give a round of applause.
So proud of myself.
Make sure to email us and tell Natasha that she did good. Needs a pat on the head after getting through that.
Yeah.
So that's movie 1 for Foreign Film February. It does ease up a bit. You did go the hardest.
Yeah, that's what you said.
Yeah, you did the random poll. Do you want to do another random poll for the next 2 films? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Or do you want me to just pick one?
Let's go for a random.
Okay, 1999 or 2023?
Let's do 2023.
All right, we will be watching the Argentinian film When Evil Lurks.
Right.
This came out. It's a Shudder exclusive. I believe it's on Netflix and stuff though now too. But yeah, that's what we're going to watch for homework next week. I will tell you this. This is a violent movie.
God damn it.
But not like this. But it is a violent movie.
Okay. The movies I've watched since Martyrs were The Wild Robot and Sonic 3. So hopefully I will have enough time in between with
enough sunshine to get you through this one.
I don't know. Wild Robot's not a sunshiny movie.
I know. You told Steph that you cried through the entire film.
I did. So.
But anyway. February, what's the way to put it? February is a violent month. I'll just say that.
Which is why I get March.
That's why you get March, right? So.
All right.
For Pot of the Dead, I am Nicholas.
And I am Natasha.
Come back and listen to us. Or else.